to all these centers and group work and things like that, but for the student that you just mentioned, for the DeMarcuses of the world, what kind of feedback is he getting based on where he is? So we're gonna begin looking at student work, taking students from where they are, and providing all students some form of feedback. And I know you might be thinking, all students? But we're gonna talk about that in a minute. And not only are we gonna start looking at student work and looking at providing all students feedback, but also tracking where they are and what they need, one piece at a time. Is just what I was speaking to you about, Ms. Blocus, and trying to give them a little nugget each time, because everyone might need something different for a particular standard, all right? So we're gonna have a heavy focus on independent practice. And I don't know that we focus very much on independent practice, because we do our I do where you all are standing up speaking. We do a whole lot of we do and guided. But we've got to get some independent practice into our instructional delivery so that why? Why do we need independent practice? What is it going to tell you all as teachers?
He's gonna tell me what the student knows or what he doesn't know.
Exactly, okay? And I've been trying to ask different grade levels about how are you formatively assessing students. We might be asking questions up here, but if I'm asking a question and you're looking dead at me and you're writing or whatever, I'm thinking you're engaged, but that might be your mechanism. So I know she won't call on me if I, so we're gonna track everybody, all right? And this is gonna be our start of kind of really conducting formative assessment, all right? And you'll see it doesn't always have to be a 10-question test. It's gonna take on different forms. So I just wanna get a feel for how many of you have heard the term aggressive monitoring? No? Okay, so that's what we're gonna lead into discussing today. We're gonna talk about aggressive monitoring, but first, we have to start with our learning expectations. So today, the teachers will learn the what, why, and how of aggressive monitoring. Okay, so remember, we have to make it measurable, so you'll reach success when you can identify the purpose and the key concepts of aggressive monitoring, and you can explain how it contributes to student learning. And I welcome you to take notes, but I will share the presentation afterwards, okay? So if you don't get all the notes in, that's okay. All right, so here we are, we're gonna get started. So we know we teach with this model of gradual release, right? We prepare our lesson plans for our opening, for our work period, and for our closing. So for gradual release, we're supposed to start out where we're demonstrating or we're modeling something up here. And then we're supposed to do this shared practice where we're guiding students and kind of asking questions, but we really don't know who's answering. And a lot of times we call on those two students that we know that know the answer. But we need to focus on those students who don't as well. But I'm not so sure how often we're getting to the full-fledged independent practice. Think for a minute, and you're not in trouble, but I want you to think and make a decision on whether you have evidence. You've given a student the opportunity to work through something independently without your help, no asking questions, and you're able to assess where he or she is on your success criteria. How many of you all can confidently say you do that? You give yourself a thumbs up every day. Give me a thumbs up against your chest so nobody can see but me. Free space, free space. Okay, and that's fine. That's fine. Okay, perfect. It was just for me to see. You didn't need your neighbor. Like, she just. It's just for me to see and for you to know. Okay. All right. So for those of you who I saw some, and I saw a few, and that's okay. So at least we are doing that practice. So based on when your students are working independently, how do you monitor student work during the students do portion of your instruction? How do you monitor that?
How do I monitor the students doing their work?
Mm-hmm.
I walk around,
Mm-hmm.
I talk to them about it. And then sometimes it's not just paper and pencil. The you do is, I'll talk to them orally about, do they understand what we're doing, or I ask them questions so that I know, okay, well, this person's gonna need a little bit more help and they don't really understand.
Okay, good. Anybody else wanna add to that?
I think what as both you said, just asking questions, like probing to see. I know especially with a lot of our students, they might not be able to write and communicate it, but seeing their thought process through what they're thinking helps me to see, okay, you kind of get it, you're not really there, or what. So, like she said, not always writing it, but sometimes discussion also.
Okay, and that's wonderful. So based on that, when you've done your monitoring in that manner, how are you able to track all that? Because don't you all share students? They rotate to all three of you? That's a lot of students. So at least 15 kids per, so about 45, 50 kids are coming through each day. So how are you keeping up with that conversation?
I usually take anecdotal notes, so I'll put a post-it. Like and for math, I need to see what they do or they're doing. So I'll ask them, can you explain this to me as I'm going around? And I'll write down those who I feel got it and those who I think, let's catch them in a small group, independent. And I may just pull them over and say, hey, let's go back through this and let them show me. And as they're showing me, I'm like, I don't think y'all got it. So then we'll go through something together. So
Okay,
that
so
kind of stuff.
guess what?
But not all the time.
You have begun aggressive monitoring, okay? So we're gonna get into it just a little bit more. All right, so what is it, aggressive monitoring? It's an approach, it's structured and it's proactive. It's a method for tracking your student progress during independent work. And it's pretty much doing what you all have said. You're asking questions, you are taking some type of notes, but you have to be strategic about it, and we'll talk about that. So you're not just saying, okay, you all, we've done our we do, now I want you to do this assignment, and then you go kind of put in some grades, or you go take care of something else. You become an active presence in your room to monitor what students are doing, okay? But you're not answering a whole lot of questions at that time. You're monitoring, and you're not telling them right or wrong answers. You're using a specific approach. You're giving feedback and you're giving support to students, and I'm gonna share how. All right? Here are the 4 key components. You're planning with a purpose, all right? You're pre-selecting the type of student work that you wanna monitor, and you already know the common misconceptions because you've done your planning for the week. So you're troubleshooting to monitor those preconceptions. You're identifying a path, because you gotta get around to all students, okay? And sometimes we do these conferences where we call students up to our desk, and you only get to talk to 1 or 2 students, because you're talking about way too many things. But when you plan with a purpose, that particular time, you're only focusing on the purpose that you set. The next time, you might have a different purpose, okay? So we're gonna talk more about identifying the path. And then you're monitoring for understanding. You're checking for accuracy, and you're spot checking for trends that you see. Holistically, do they have it? You might need to stop the whole independent practice and say, hey, I've been circulating and I'm seeing this misconception trending. Let's bring it back together and let's address it. And you start questioning them. This is what I'm seeing. Now, based on what we learned earlier, and we talked about rule number 2, tell me how this could be a possibility. You write the problem on the board. If we looked at rule number 2, and you read rule number 2 again, I'm just making this up off the top of my head, all right? So that's how we do that, all right? And then we guide students to make corrections, or we provide them with positive reinforcement, all right? He's got it. If they don't have it, okay, I want you to go back and reconsider. Remember, we talked about so-and-so, but you're not saying, no, it's not 2. The answer cannot be 2, because you want them to get to the realization of what the answer could be. We want to talk about those mathematical practices and does it make sense? All right, so why is this important? It's ensuring that the misconceptions are caught early, all right? If you're going to give some type of check for understanding on Wednesday or Thursday, and it's Tuesday, you need to know if they're actually ready for that, or if you're giving a common assessment, are they ready? Because you need to be spot checking each day, just little bits at a time. And it's helping all your students stay on task. For those that they like to doodle and you think they're working or whatever, it's increasing student accountability, and encouraging deeper student engagement. They can't just sit and hope that they can't be called on and look busy. All right, so the immediate feedback. You're correcting errors in the moment. You're reinforcing correct behaviors and understandings. And you're keeping students motivated and accountable. Even if that, all right, you're on the right track, keep going. All right, good. If you say, I'm coming around looking at number one, and sometimes we say, do number one, and then we hold the class until everyone finishes. Nope, okay, you got it, go on to number three, go on to step two. You keep them moving, so that's cutting down on kids cutting up in class too, all right? All right, and then monitoring the quality of student work. You check answers against your exemplar. Where do you get an exemplar from?
I would think the one for math, I would think the one that I did before, and I'm looking, and I have my notes on there, and I'm looking to see are they.
Aren't you doing the math?
Yeah,
When you're doing the math, that becomes your exemplar because you wanna check to see your process, to see where students are breaking down their process. Or if they're getting the correct answer and they had the choice to use multiple strategies, as long as they show you that they know, and you might as a teacher say, oh, I hadn't considered it that way, so you're learning as well, all right? You're tracking correct and incorrect answers. Let me go back to the exemplars. In ELA, where are we getting our exemplars from? If they're writing a paragraph.
For writing, we sometimes use Right Score or the ones. Godot, yeah, they do that.
Okay, or sometimes we draft them ourselves.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we have great examples from previous years. So we start collecting exemplars. When we wanna see an outcome, we have to show what it looks like. I always use the example of, how many of you all like cooking shows? Remember, they always show you the outcome first, and then they take you through the process, and then they come back to the outcome, they pull the cake that was already baked out the oven, so it looks like that. All right, so we're tracking our correct and incorrect answers. We're marking up student work as we circulate. I'm gonna show you what that looks like. And we come up with a coding system as a teacher of what works for us to affirm answers, okay? I'm gonna give you a check if number one is if you have number one. I'm gonna circle it if I want you to go back. You're gonna figure out your coding system. And your students should know it too. Use the same coding system every time. Hang it up so they can see it. I need you to circle back, and circle back means go back and check your, building student accountability so you're not doing all the work all the time. All right, and then tracking feedback. We said you're gonna plan for what you wanna monitor. So what skill are you looking for? What misconception are you trying to be on the lookout for? All right, do they understand the differences and the differences between a volcano and a hurricane? What is the misconception between the two that they keep having? You're gonna position yourself to see all your students. So if I'm walking around, I'm gonna make sure I'm right here, because I can see you all. Then I'm right here, I can see you all and work. I'm coming around, okay? So I can see you. And a lot of times when teachers start helping, I was in one class here, and I'm not gonna say who it was. I was like, oh my. The teacher's back was turned, and that whole side, they were like on the floor. I said, and I was looking like, they were, yes, right. And the teacher was just, okay. You're gonna use a clipboard or some type of tracking system to document what you see. That becomes data, you all. You have it. You can't remember all those conversations. All right, now here. We're gonna create a pathway. But look who we're gonna start with. Which students are we starting with? The fastest. Think about when you give an assignment. Who do we typically go to first? I don't understand. Okay, well you're giving them specific, okay, first I want you to do this. Set up your headings, all right? And so you're going to the quick kids first. You can keep moving them. And then you circle back. You gotta figure out your pathway, all right? And your pathway is determined by maybe you're grouping kids together in a certain way, or you just know where to hit. You know who gets it. You talk about that student, doesn't typically get it. We know who does and who does not. So we go to those quick ones first so we can keep them moving. we're losing the kids who are on point,
Yes,
cause they're
okay.
waiting.
Yeah.
I apologize, I'm sorry. Okay, so you're saying that, okay, so during the you do, I'm going to the ones that can do, I mean, going to them first?
Yes,
Okay, and why am I doing that?
because they're the one, you wanna see if they have it, first of all. If they don't have it, if you go to 3 people who you know typically get it, then maybe there's some big misconception still trending. If you start going to all the kids who struggle quickly, you never get to see the rest of the kids. Everybody needs a minute to process. You're only looking for one thing at a time, but typically it's those fastest kids are gonna show you what the group knows, typically. So try to process that a little bit. Think about who you typically go to and who you call on most of the time.
Also, you know, just because those kids don't, everybody wants that love, right? So it may be a day that kid that's been getting it, it's not their day and they off. But if you're not monitoring them, you won't know that they having an off day that day. You just like, I know they've been good Monday and Tuesday, you know. So Wednesday may be that day they're like, oh, they're a little off, you know. But you didn't hit them, so that's why you want to be able to, you know, circulate the room and get everybody.
A lot of times they don't get the feedback.
Okay, I guess because for me, I have my kids to sit, they know when they come in, they have to sit right here, and I walk around, so I get everybody. You understand? So that's why I didn't quite understand. But I do go to the lower ones first, because they'll say they understand, but I'm too embarrassed to say that I don't. So I'll go to them and say, you know, and then I'll go around I touch all of my students and I look at all of my students, what they're doing.
And so what you're gonna do when you give your assignment, you're gonna create laps. You're looking for everybody to do the same thing. So you're gonna say, first, I'm coming around to see that you have set up your, what's that strategy you all were doing? Your UPS. I wanna see that you've drawn your,
Right.
okay, so, all right. Okay, next in lap 2, I'm coming around to see if you have determined which operation we're gonna use. And you're going to underline those key details to let me know how you figured out which key operation. You're just looking for that. And most of the kids who typically are in tune, they're gonna have that. All right, and then I've hit you too, they always get it. And I'm gonna look back over here, because a lot of times she's off and on. Okay, yeah, and I might give some direction. Okay, now I want you to consider why such and such and such, because she's close but not quite. Over here, what did I ask you to do? Tell me what I asked you to do. Okay, now I need you to go ahead and get that started, but I'm coming back. And then I'm coming back to see, and then I'm moving on. So you're gauging yourself. And so they're not, she wasn't off the hook, because I said I'm coming back. I might go to 2 more people, but I'm coming back.
And they watch you when you do
That's
that,
right.
because they're trying to see, is she
Coming
gonna come
back.
back?
Is she coming back?
Right.
Yep.
Is she coming
So
back?
just let it sink in for a minute first. All right, you're tracking student answers, and I keep repeating this because I want it to sink in. You're addressing misconceptions, you're giving students immediate feedback, and you adjust your teaching based on what you observe. You go to you go to 6, 8 kids and nobody's with you, maybe you weren't clear. You ever been to a concert, a conference, a workshop? What she want us to do?
Right.
Huh? And you see everybody talking, the presenter wasn't clear. Because sometimes when you present, you're so into what you're presenting, you already know, and you don't realize they don't get it. They're not with you. So it's kind of like that. All right. Now, tracking. This is an example of a tracking sheet. This is just an Excel document that I have printed all my kids' names in all 3 classes, and I keep blanks. So every week, I'm putting one on my clipboard, or every day, however you're tracking, all right? We're gonna say this is my week, and I'm doing informative writing. So I would just put my success criteria or my standard up there, just keywords, and what my tracking system is, my codes. I'm giving a star, got it, I'm giving a check, close, but I need to question through some of their misconceptions as they're working. I'm giving a question, I need you to explain more. I think they're on the right track, but they're not saying, they're giving me limited details. X, they're totally confused, all right? And then after I get everyone up and running, and I've done a lap or 2, I might say, okay, Locus, Dixon, I want you at my table. Y'all don't know why. And you could be one of the ones ones who are on track all the time, but not today.
Yeah.
And so you might wanna pull them to get them back together, cause you're seeing the same errors trending, alright? So that's just an example of how you can do it. You might wanna do it electronically, you might wanna do notes, sticky notes, however you wanna do it, it's up to you. But do it and compile it. Section 1, keep the note, section 2, cause that's data, okay? Alright, that's been a lot of talking, so I want you to kinda think back through. That's been the whole I do, a little long-winded, but I just wanted to make sure you heard it several times, alright? So, some of you last year learned the circle map, and some of you didn't, I don't know, but, so here's my quick review. I'm pretending we've already done the circle map, but we're gonna loop back to it, and I wanna make sure everyone understands our concept for today, which is aggressive monitoring. Remember, in our circle map, we put our concept or our term in the middle, but we don't close the circle. Does anyone remember why we don't close the circle? You're still adding, and you don't wanna limit students. And here's a way to differentiate your concept, so I wanna make sure you understand. You might say, I wanna see examples of whatever. But you might tell her, I wanna see three examples. You just give me one. You're differentiating, and then you close the circle when you finish. And remember, the outer square is how do you know this, okay? So, I kept repeating all this for a reason, because I wanna see how much you are retaining. So we're gonna do our circle map together, and you can jot it down, and I'm going to write what you call out, okay? So I have mine over here, but there's there's blank paper on the table for you to take notes. Cause you know how I like for you to keep up with your learning and be responsible. Okay, alright, so here we go. What's our term for today? Aggressive monitoring. Who can tell me what it is? Take a minute, think about it. Some of you jotted down notes earlier. I'm sorry, I wasn't clear, forgive me. I'm expecting you all to compose your own circle map, so please go ahead and put your key concept in your middle. I should not see any closed circles on the outside. I should only see the inside. And why do I only want the inner circle and not the outer?
Because we're constantly adding to it.
Constantly adding to it. Alright, you should have that done by now. I'm checking. I see everyone has it done, great. So, you've had a moment to think about what it is. I'm sorry, I gotta start speeding up just a little bit because we were late getting started. Alright, what is it?
Tracking your students.
It's tracking. What else is it?
Student progress.
Excuse me?
Student progress.
Tracking student progress?
Yes.
Okay.
Immediate feedback.
Oh, yes.
Yes, immediate feedback.
Immediate feedback.
Alright. Anything else?
I would say, accountability, student learning accountability.
Oh, yes, student accountability, learning, you said. Anything else you wanna add, or you good with that? Good with that? Alright, what's the purpose for it? Like, why should we do it?
One of the reasons you should do it is, as a teacher, you know immediately who knows it and who doesn't, who's struggling, who you need to give extra help with, or extra resources.
Who is struggling, but what else? Maybe everyone's not struggling.
It also helps,
I'm gonna add this,
Okay.
who has it? Okay,
it also helps the teachers to, if they need to clear up any misconceptions.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, anything else?
It also allows me to know if I can go ahead and move on to the next step. Because
Okay.
if they don't have it, then I need to take a step back.
Is that right? Gauge,
Yes.
gauge,
Mhm.
gauge,
I would say
teacher,
instruction.
pace. Gauge
pace,
teacher
yeah,
pace,
yeah,
pacing? Okay. Anything else? I think that's good. Alright, now, who remembers, and this might overlap, I don't know, but who remembers the, key concepts?
Plan with purpose,
Yep.
identify.
Identify.
Uh-huh.
path.
Oh, sorry.
Plan with purpose,
Identify the path.
Monitor for understanding.
Okay, hold on. Identify the path. So,
Yes.
what should the path consist of? Who should we start with first?
The ones that know.
The fastest.
The fastest. ones.
Fastest.
Mhm.
Fastest first. Okay.
Monitor for understanding.
Yep. And what's the last one?
Guide students to,
Understanding. Okay.
guide students to make corrections or provide positive reinforcement.
Corrections
And
or
provide positive reinforcement.
reinforcement. Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay. All right, and, this for the purposes of doing a great circle map, I'm gonna go ahead and close it up.
Okay.
Might not be quite a circle, but that's okay. Now, how do we know all this? What's in our frame? Our frame is our point of reference. How do you know this?
Oh.
Where'd you get this information from?
Dr. Mitchell.
Listen, when she said, how do you know this, I was thinking to myself, you just told me.
Okay, but of what I told you, some of you were doing some of this, so how do you know? You can
Practice.
teach or practice, okay? I want you to acknowledge uneducated. You do know.
You're right, we do know.
See, that's like with students, you gotta get them to, how do you know this?
Yeah.
Your student would say, oh, I've seen some of this on the news. Is there any other way that you know this? Cause you knew some of this before you came in here, but you just didn't necessarily know what it was called.
Correct.
Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and close up our frame of reference. So y'all, don't forget, when you're teaching a concept, use your circle map and keep it up, alright? Alright. So that's, you're on, I know that you're with me, good. I want you to look at 2 examples, and I want you to think about, maybe just one, but it's short. I want you to think about what you see and hear the teacher do as she monitors students' work during their independent work time. In charter schools, they don't really do, group stuff, it's all about independent and they track.
Great work, sweetheart. Rest of purple, can you turn back to number 1 and 2, please? Nice job, Malcolm. Take a check with the operations. Me too. How do you know those teams are different?
She forgot to add can stop on to add.
Circling, keep that. Blue row numbers 1 and 2, please.
Certain numbers, cause that row, blue row.
Great work, sanitary, and that's a really nice job showing your work. Nice job, Mr. Marcelin. Nice job, Newton, showing your work for that. Super job, Talasia. Try that one again. Area is, say it. What did you do? Fix it.
Okay, what are we seeing here?
Immediate feedback.
Immediate feedback.
But is she giving answers?
No.
Alright,
And I like the praise. she
I was gonna say the
gives.
positive
So, like,
reinforcement.
high five, you know, give them a 5, good job, and if they didn't do it well, she was like, hey, I need you to retry this one again.
Yep.
Um,
Save my time.
and she's marking it to say who's getting it, who maybe needs
Right.
help or whatever on her chalkboard.
Next time, do this on the outside.
Okay, got one more, y'all need to see this one too.
You have two really short passages to read. They're more like little paragraphs and a prompt at the bottom. You're going to plan on the back. So it mostly just looks like a blank piece of paper, but that's where your plan is going to go. It's a little bit of outline practice. You have 12 minutes to do this. Begin. And I'm coming around first looking for those full headings.
Now to her left.
Send it out to Jason for his urgency. Don't forget the active readings passages are short, we should still do that. And I'm coming around now, checking for your author's purpose note. I'll check it off if it's correct. I'll put a dot if it's not. Don't forget that note. An author's purpose note should start with a verb. The author is trying to do what? It could be to inform, to persuade, any of those things. Just make sure it starts with a verb.
Okay, what do you see?
Specific things that she was looking for each time, and she checked it, gave feedback, and then she put it on her tracker.
And it seems like they're just getting started, so she's spot checking, making sure everyone has
Everybody's on.
the
Right.
requirements.
I don't understand what it is that she's asking them to do.
Right.
Right, and you see she has her what?
She got her
She has her
tracker.
clipboard.
Yeah.
All right, so we were late getting started and people had to go to the restroom and so I'm gonna, normally I wouldn't stop like this, but I just wanna kinda talk you through the next steps. So, I showed you all to affirm, the things that I've been saying. All right, and then check for understanding. We're not gonna do it, but I'm just gonna give it to you. So I wanna make sure before you all left that you understand. And so I'm using graphic organizers because they're visual. So we did a circle map and now we have a Freyer model. And basically, these squares equate what is in the success criteria for the day. And so I wanna come around and make sure, I would go around and make sure you understand what's in, going from left to right, starting at the top then to the bottom, that you can define, that you can identify the purpose and you know the key concepts, but what level is all that? What level of learning? The three things that I just said. Define, identify, and basically you're gonna list the key concepts. Is there any thinking involved in any of that?
It's like a two.
That's a one. Those are recall, those are all the things that I've said. But then, I wanna make sure as teachers, I would say, now I'm coming around checking for box 4. I want you to, I wanna know that you know as a teacher, what is the contribution to student learning? Why are we doing this? How will it help? What will be the benefit? That shows your understanding. Cause if we go back to my success criteria, I wanted you to be able to explain, all right, and then the learning goal was for you to understand the what, the why, and the how. So did I cover those things? Yes, and so look, so I have my exemplar that I did, and so you were to define it, what is it? This was difficult because it was code information, so that's why this morning I said, okay, we can do a circle map, so I can kind of gauge, because I have to show you all that I'm gauging what you know, to make sure you're ready for this. But then I wanted to affirm everything with the visual, because I've been doing a lot of talking, all right? So I have eyes, and check, and plus, and minus, for my symbol, because I'm looking to see and I'm giving feedback. And then basically, that's it. And then here I have sticky notes, cause it's such a small group. Alright, so are there any questions that you have about applying, aggressive monitoring? What do you need as a teacher? What are the must-haves?
Have your tracker ready.
Your tracker and your,
your key.
Yep.
Like your visual, whatever you're gonna
and
use.
make sure the students know what your key is. Once you decide on your key, it has to be the same key all the time.
All the time.
And direct them to it. Stop making students unaccountable. Like, you've already said 3 times what, and she said, go back, okay? I put a circle on your paper, check the key. Just start doing it that way to make them
Yeah.
think, and, cause like by the end of the day, y'all are working more probably than all 45, 50 kids. So start building in that
Yes, I said,
accountability.
you go home exhausted and they're fine,
Right.
flip it.
And like you said, when they know that you're coming back and that they're accountable too, even for the, cause they always say, oh, they think that she's going to the smart ones. But everybody's
Yeah.
smart, we just have to build them up in
That's
their
right.
areas.
And it cuts down on behavior also.
Exactly.
It cuts down on behavior.
So what questions do you have? Okay, and when do you find yourself, when do you think you'll start? Take some process time, and then I'm gonna ask you to start by next week. I didn't let you answer the
Yeah, I was
question.
thinking like, that's doable.
Take some process
Yeah.
time, you know, and then start, and think about the structure that have been set up. All the
Okay.
structures are set up. Naming your misconceptions, you already do that anyway. You know, most of you all are repeat teachers, so you pretty much know the historical trending issues. And now you have this group of kids, and typically they have trouble with this or that, so you have some information to consider. Alright, so start figuring out what your path, this week take the time to figure out, well, what would my path be? Start paying attention to those who typically speak out and you know that they know. Those who know verbally and not written. So